Does the person you are with encourage you to read? You have to ask, what does he bring for me? Roses or books? If someone has a stake in making you better, that person will push you towards books. Books are what we all need.
Adhyatma Upanishad, verse 12. Anisa Bhute. The destruction of actions leads to that of thought. Thence results the dwindling of innate impulse to act. The obliteration of innate impulse is liberation. It is held to be freedom in life. Dear Acharya Pranam, I am not clear on the verse above. I am aware that I have innate impulses like anger, greed, pride, fear, and attachments. Kindly help me understand what is this process of dwindling of innate impulses as mentioned in this verse. It is the path, the method, Anisa, that proceeds from the gross and goes towards the subtle. This method is for those who cannot begin from the subtlemost. There is the path of realization. The path of realization says, begin from your center, begin from your heart, Atma. Let that guide and dictate your mind. Let that which comes from your heart shape your thoughts. And then let your mind dictate your actions. Let your thoughts seamlessly transform into your actions. Flow is from the center radially outwards. You start from the heart, you go to the mind, and then you go to the gross actions. The movement is from the most subtle to the gross. And then contrasted to that is the path, the way, the method that is mentioned in this verse. Why is a contrasting method needed? Because most people cannot start from the heart. Most people are so out of touch with their heart that they cannot listen to the heart. They are no more in sync. You tell them, please start from your heart. Do what God says. They'll be perplexed. Because they have lost the faculty to listen to their heart. So if you just leave them with the instructions or the advice that they must do what their center says, they'll not be able to do anything at all. Or they will mistakenly construe some random voice of the mind as the voice of the heart and proceed as per that random voice and harm themselves. So the way of the heart is not for everyone. It is only for those who are in touch with their heart. It is only for those who are in touch with the subtlemost. And then there is the opposite way that this verse is talking of. It is the way of the gross. So you start from your actions. You look at your actions. You proceed backwards, you see where your actions are coming from, you come to your thoughts. Your thoughts then lead you to look at your deep tendencies. You negate the tendencies then. And when all these are gone, then you are left with nothing but pure truth. So the verse says, the destruction of actions leads to that of thought. You look at your thoughts, you look at your actions to begin with, you look at that which is the most gross, and what is that? Actions. You look at your actions and you find them horrible. You negate your actions. The verse says destruction of actions. You destroy your actions. You say, no. The moment I pay attention to my actions, I see that I cannot continue with them. And if you can freeze your actions, then the thought that leads to those actions will start shrinking. Please understand the theory here. Thought feeds upon its manifestation into action. If you have a thought and you do not favor it, support it, energize it, you do not turn it into action, then that thought gets weakened. It loses its power because it is not gaining any sympathy from you. So the thought is arising and the thought is prompting you to act in a certain way. And you refuse to go by the demand of that thought. You refuse to act. You freeze the action. As the verse says, you destroy the action. You do not let the thought turn into action. The thought itself will die down because thought requires your support. How do you express your support to the thought? By turning it into action. When you do not turn the thought into action, what have you told the thought? I do not respect you. You have come to me and you are saying, act this way, and I have not gone by your advice. I do not respect you. I will not fuel you. I am not your ally. And the thought, humiliated and de-energized, falls down. Similar is the relationship between the latent tendency that gives rise to thoughts and thoughts. Thought demands action, tendency demands thought. So the tendency comes to you, demanding that you think in a particular way. But if you do not support the tendency, if you do not let the tendency turn into active thoughts, then the tendency too will gradually shrivel. You are not energizing the tendency. From where will it continue? So action is destroyed and that destroys thoughts. Thought is destroyed and that destroys the tendency. And when false action, false thought, false tendencies are all gone, then you are left with nothing but the truth. This is the way in which you proceed from the gross to the subtle. Anisa is saying, I am aware that I have innate impulses like anger, pride, greed, fear, attachments. What is the process of dwindling of innate impulses as mentioned? The process of dwindling of innate impulses is the process of not letting the impulses turn into thought or action. How do you dwindle the innate impulses? By not letting them turn into thoughts and then actions. That's the highlighted portion. How do you enfeeble a thought? By not acting on it. Let the thought keep coming. You keep disregarding it. When the thought will not find any traction with you, it will feel insulted and will retreat. Let your impulses keep raging. Do not let them occupy your mind. Do not start actively thinking on their lines. And the impulses will gradually fall silent. You have the choice. Nothing happens to you without your consent. Impulses appeal to you. Thoughts appeal to you. You are the judge. You decide whether to accept their appeals. Do not say, oh, what do I do? I'm a slave to my thoughts. You're not a slave to your thoughts. You are the one who decides that you will go by your thoughts. And if you have decided, you can also reverse the decision. Right? That power is there. Exercise that power judiciously.
That thought can be a very good thought.
Do you ever have bad thoughts? If you know that a thought is bad, it will not remain anymore. According to the thinker, all thoughts are good. We said thought requires your support to survive. So if there is any thought that is surviving in you, according to you, it is a good thought. Otherwise, how could it have survived? Survival of thought requires that you consider it beneficial for yourself, right? If you know that a thought is not beneficial for you, then you will not support it and then it cannot survive. If a bad thought is preserving in your mind, continuing in your mind, then it means that you are just calling it a bad thought. Deeply, you are supporting it. Deeply, you think that it is a good thought. Maybe for reasons of moral necessity, you are superficially calling it bad. But deeply, you are quite pleased with it. Had you really honestly thought that the thought is bad, then the thought would have gone. But our minds are all full of so-called bad thoughts. What does that mean? We call them bad. We actually do not consider them bad. And your minds are not at all full of good thoughts. What does that mean? You call them good, but you consider them very, very bad. So even when those thoughts come to you, you do not support them. What do you support? All the so-called bad thoughts, because they are all quite nice, lovely, attractive. Then let's have a little honesty. Why call them bad at all? There was this Bengali story, So, Bengali gentleman, Bhadralok. He was very fond of visiting brothels, and he was a Brahmin. And Brahmin too, of the highest gotra. So he will go to the prostitute and coil the sacred thread around his ear. Do what he wanted to do. And leave. One day when he was leaving, the woman saw that he was exhausted, all in sweat and huffing and panting. Must have been quite intensely in the act. So the woman brought a glass of water for him. He must have been a regular patron. So just for client relationship management, she probably bought some water. Please take some water. You are sweating a lot, sir, and you are losing your breath. And the beggar says, I am a high caste Brahmin. Will I drink water from your hands? The woman was a bad thought for her. Such are our bad thoughts. We enjoy them and then we say, will I touch you? You low class prostitute? Will I ever touch you? Will I accept water from your hands? That's our relationship with our bad thoughts. Right, Mukesh Nirala?
We are able to see that thoughts, we can stop the thoughts turning into actions, but how to see tendencies, like how to catch tendencies not becoming thoughts, because they are very subtle.
No, tendencies are subtle. Thoughts are not. Thoughts are not as imperceivable as tendencies, so they are not very subtle. Don't keep thinking. You know how to stop thoughts, right? You very well know how to fuel thought. You also know how to de-energize thought. Go, occupy yourself constructive. Don't give yourself the time and the space to think so much. That's how you block the flow of thought. That's how you interrupt the momentum of thought, don't you? The moment you interrupt thought, you have weakened the tendency behind the thought. Tendency you cannot see, but thought you can. So work on the thought. By working on the thought, you are indirectly working on the tendency. And if you can work on your thought long enough and consistently enough, you will find that your tendency has weakened down a lot.
While we sit in the satsang, usually we are like, we have a posture to take, so there is, the actions are being dumbed down, so we are able to do that. But I think this is a very right time when we are able to see our tendencies as well rising. So you are not moving your body because you are following some discipline, but then tendencies keep on pushing up, something keeps on coming up. So like for example, the last question when you were talking about how to strangulate the Maya, there was some film movie shots coming up, like the Gangs of Wasepur last scene. He's pushing bullets again and again, but that was keep on, and it kept on coming even when the second question came, that he's pushing bullets even when Ramadir is dead. So that thing was coming up and some other thing. So at that point of time,
Listen to the next answer. The movie will stop. That's all. How do you stop a particular action? Man is forever acting. Then how do you stop a particular action? Do something else. Not doing anything is anyway not possible. What does it mean then to destroy action, as the Upanishad says? It means to do something else. Go. Get busy with something more fruitful, more sane.